Thank you.
Come to order. Court is again in session.
Thank you, Deputy Jones. In the Murray case, the defendant is present with his counsel, the people by their counsel. Mr. Anderson once again is on the stand. All the jurors and alternates are present as well. To everyone, good afternoon. Mr. Anderson, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Do you acknowledge you are still under oath and still sworn to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
This will be resumption of direct examination, Mr. Walgan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Now, we left off beginning to talk about what's marked as People's 168, the 8-page report documenting your lab's findings in regard to decedent Michael Jackson. I believe you had indicated what each of the specified columns represent in this report. And what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to simply go through each analysis that was conducted by your lab, and if you could inform us of the findings that are documented in this report. May we dim the lights, Your Honor?
Please, Mrs. Benson.
These first three items listed as under femoral blood, bases, benzodiazepine, and propofol. Do those three items represent the tests that were done utilizing the femoral blood?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm just going to zoom in then so we can see these three. Okay. Now, beginning with the first service, bases, what does that mean?
BASES is a pharmaceutical basic drug screen. Again, it is looking for drugs similar to antidepressants, antipsychotics, antihistamines, and in this particular case, we detected lidocaine in the femoral blood.
Okay.
Let me just preface this whole thing before we even begin to start with the 8-page report, in that most of the analysis...
The objection sustained. The entire answer is stricken. Disregarded, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your question.
Could you explain the analysis as represented in this 8-page report?
It's typical of the laboratory to do most of their analysis in the central or heart blood. If warranted, we will move on to other specimens to confirm other types of drugs in other specimens. So all of our work, the vast majority of our work is in that heart blood, and then extra work is also done in other types of specimens such as femoral blood, vitreous, liver, gastric. So we're beginning here at the top page of femoral blood, and we only have 3 results, and that's because they happen to be positive elsewhere in the heart blood.
Okay. So the heart blood's kind of the starting point?
It is.
All right. And because this is listed first on the report, let's begin with the femoral blood. Then you indicated service was conducted for bases, and there was a positive result for lidocaine?
Yes.
Again, this is strictly dealing with the femoral blood?
Correct.
All right.
Excuse me. So that we're all clear, could counsel inquire as to femoral blood?
Sure. What is femoral blood?
Talking about the various different blood samples, when I first talked about most of our work is done in the central blood or heart blood. That is blood taken from the central cavity. It's generally a lot more plentiful in the central cavity from the heart. Interpretively, it's a little bit different. Femoral vein blood is taken generally from the femoral or the leg vein, and typically it's less of a volume that you can take from it. Typically you take no more than 10 mils, or a typical blood vial that you go to the hospitals with, get your blood drawn. It's 1 vial is 10 milliliters in volume, so you typically get no more than that amount of blood in that 1 tube. So quantity-wise, it's very limited in what you're able to work with.
And going through them before we go through the entire report, the heart blood is self-explanatory. That's blood from the heart?
Correct.
Okay. Also in your document, it indicates hospital blood. Is that from the 4 vials that were retrieved from UCLA?
Yes.
Okay. You've just described femoral blood. Another category or specimen is vitreous. What is that?
A vitreous sample is also called vitreous humor. It's actually clear fluid from behind the eyeballs. And it's actually a very clear, clean specimen. It's actually very pristine and actually holds the drug and their concentrations very well.
Okay, and the liver, that was a specimen?
A liver, yes.
Could you describe that as far as the sample and the specimen?
Yeah, I mean, a liver, during autopsy, the pathologist will collect a portion of the liver, and they give me a chunk of the liver to work with.
And the gastric contents, what is that?
The gastric contents are the stomach contents taken from the decedent. Generally, and it's standard operating procedure for the pathologist to submit in the entire gastric contents to the laboratory.
And then there are 2 urine samples or 2 urine specimens in your report, one being urine and one being urine from the scene. Can you describe those 2 samples?
Yes. There were 2 urines in this particular case, one being collected by investigator Fleek. It was brought in a plastic urine bottle, something you would see similar at the hospital where they're collecting urine in it, as well as the urine that was collected from the bladder during autopsy by the pathologist.
Okay, thank you. Now going then to the femoral blood, you indicated it was a positive result for lidocaine. Can you describe the result and who the analyst was?
Sure. We detected lidocaine at 0.84 micrograms per milliliter, and it was performed by a EUCEN, E-U-C-E-N, FU, F-U.
And the next service as it relates to the femoral blood, is that for benzodiazepines?
Yes.
Okay, and can you describe the findings as it relates to the femoral blood benzodiazepines?
Yes, we detected lorazepam at 169 nanograms per milliliter, or if you convert it, 0.169 micrograms per milliliter. And it was performed by a Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, De Quintana, D-E-Q-U-I-N-T-A-N-A.
All right, and the third service as it relates to the femoral blood?
We detected propofol as a drug, and we detected at a level of 2.6 micrograms per milliliter, and it was performed by Jamie Lintemoot, J-A-I-M-E, Lintemoot, L-I-N-T-E-M-O-O-T.
Going down then to the next specimen, that is the heart blood?
Correct.
All right. And just to zoom out for a moment, the rest of the specimens you're going to be discussing on this first page of your report, going down the list from top to bottom under heart blood, these are all heart blood results?
Correct.
All right. I'm going to zoom in. All right. And if you could then just, with these heart blood specimens, can you just go from the top and describe the tests and the findings for each of these specimens?
Sure. Starting with the top, acetaminophen was tested for, or Tylenol, as commonly known, and it was not detected.
That's represented by an ND in the units column?
Yes.
Okay. And that was by Ms. Lintemoot?
That was by Jamie Lintemoot. The next line is an alcohol or a volatile test where we look for ethanol or drinking alcohol specifically, and the result was negative by a gentleman named Mark, M-A-R-K, Schuchart, S-C-H-U-C-H-A-R-D-T.
All right. The next test?
Barbiturates as a class of drugs were analyzed.
Let me stop you. What are barbiturates as a class of drugs?
Barbiturates are it's an older generation type drug, and they are sedative hypnotics, really. sedative properties.
All right. And so with this service for barbiturate, can you describe the findings?
Not detected, and that was actually, the test was done by myself.
All right. And the next one indicated, excuse me, is bases. Can you describe this line?
Similar to what the femoral blood was, we detected lidocaine in the basic drug panel at a level of 0.68 micrograms per milliliter. And again, it was done by Mr. Fu.
All right. Beneath that is another bases service.
Sure. The next 5 lines actually belong to the basis service, remembering that we look for many different types of drugs in that basic drug screen. And in this particular case, we call very specifically what drugs were not detected, probably because we had some type of history in this case file or some type of suggestion from the media that there's possible some drugs should be on board. Specifically, we looked for meperidine, which is Demerol. We looked for normopiridine, which is Demerol metabolite. The next 2 lines
All right, let me stop you there. So what is commonly referred to as Demerol is represented on your test results as meperidine?
Correct.
Okay. And you said normopiridine is a metabolite of meperidine. Can you explain that, please?
When someone ingests a drug, your body naturally wants to try to get rid of it. Your liver will metabolize the drug into another drug. In this particular case, it's meperidine. Your body converts it to normopiridine in order to eliminate it or excrete it out of your body. Typically, we look for not only the parent drug, you look for the metabolite as well to demonstrate, is there anything in the body at all?
Okay. So normopiridine is created via a process internally in the body.
Correct.
All right. And meperidine, though, actually represents the drug Demerol.
Yes.
All right. So in your testing of the heart blood for meperidine, otherwise known as Demerol, was any detected?
No.
Okay. And that's represented by the ND, none detected?
That's correct.
All right. And that was by criminalist Fu as well?
Yes.
Okay, and then the metabolite of Demerol, normopiridine, what was that result?
Not detected as well.
All right. And let's just go through then with the 3 remaining bases that were tested. Can you describe those 3 and the results, please?
The next 2 actually belong together as well. The sertraline, also known as Zoloft, has a trade name. It's an antidepressant, as well as its metabolite, norsertraline. And they were both not detected, again, by criminalist Fu.
All right.
And then the last one being trazodone, also trade name, I believe, is Deseril. And that is also an antidepressant, and it was also not detected.
All right. And then the next service, or the next 4 rather, are 4 different benzodiazepines. Can you just take us through each of those 4 services represented on page 1 of your report?
Yes. Benzodiazepines as a class of drugs is quite large of a class of drugs. It's similar to barbiturates. It's actually a newer class of drugs, more recently developed, at least earlier than barbiturates. And it tends to replace what the barbiturates were commonly prescribed for in the hospital. But in this case, we looked for several different benzodiazepines. Alprazolam, which is also known as Xanax, and it was not detected by an analyst named of Robert Budd, B-U-D-D. The next drug is diazepam, also commonly known as Valium, and it was detected and reported as present in less than 0.10 micrograms per mil. And that was done by the analyst De Quintana.